Hello, welcome to the first lecture of Intro to Trigonometry. I'm Lonzo, your instructor for this course. So in this section, I will go over the different types of triangles based on their angles or side lengths. I will explain the importance of knowing the different triangles for this course, so why it's important. Okay, so let's talk about triangles. So there are different types of triangles. There's about 6 different types of triangles that can be classified by their angles or their side lengths. So why is it important to know these types of triangles? Later in this trig course, notice I said trig, not geometry, you will have to find unknown side lengths or unknown angles. The technique will be different for each type of triangle. So if you have a right triangle, to find missing side length or missing angle, you would have to use SOHCAHTOA, right? And yeah, so basically, that's why it's important to know the different types of angles. So let's start with the first triangle, acute triangle. So an acute triangle is a type of triangle in which all 3 internal angles of the triangles are acute, meaning less than 90 degrees, right? So yeah, so this could be like 60, this could be, they could all be 60s, right? This could be 60, because what is the sum of a triangle? It is 180, right? So as long as all the angles are less than 90, you have what's called an acute. Okay. And also, let's say they gave you a side length versus an angle. You still can figure out if it's an acute by using this formula. So it's c squared is less than a squared plus b squared. So you can write this on your notes. Or it's equivalent to saying a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, right? Because with inequalities, this is always backwards. I know that's kind of confusing. Why would they do that? So this is the same thing as a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared. So you would only use this if you're given side lengths, not angles. Okay. Let's move on. Here we have a right triangle. So how do you know you have a right triangle? Right triangle is where one angle is exactly 90 degrees or has that box symbol. So if you see that box symbol, that's definitely dealing with right triangles, this little box symbol here. If you have a right triangle, you can apply Pythagorean theorem. So if this is good if you just have like side lengths and you want to know if it's really truly a right triangle, you can just apply Pythagorean theorem. Okay, and you can also use this to find the missing side lengths of a right triangle, right? So yeah, go ahead and write that on your notes because that will be helpful. Okay, so let's move on. Here we have an obtuse triangle. So an obtuse triangle is where one angle in the triangle is greater than 90. So as you can see in this example, one of my angle is 91 degrees, which is technically greater than 90 degrees. So that's how you know you have an obtuse triangle. You can also figure out you have an obtuse, if you were given side lengths, you could use this formula to figure out if it's an obtuse triangle or not. C squared is greater than a squared plus b squared. This is equivalent to saying a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, because it's always backwards. Okay, so if one angle in your triangle is greater than 90, you have obtuse. You can also apply, if you were given side lengths only, you could apply this formula, and if this is true, then you have an obtuse. Okay. We'll go ahead and write that down. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so the next triangle is an isosceles triangle. So an isosceles triangle is when you have two sides and two angles that are congruent. So yeah, if you have two sides that are congruent, that means two angles must be congruent. So see this symbol right here? That means that these are two congruent side lengths. And do you see this symbol right here? Let's use blue. It just means that these angles are congruent. So let's pretend this side length was 5. If that was true, and if this was an isosceles, that means this is an also 5. Now let's say this angle is 45. So this angle goes with this side length. So this side length goes with this angle, and they are congruent. So this also has to be 45. Okay, so let's move on. Scaling is when you have a scaling triangle is where no sides or no angles are congruent. Where no sides or no angles are congruent. So nothing is equal. All the sides are different. All the angles are different. Yeah, scaling. That is a scaling. Nothing is equal. Okay, and then let's talk about the equilateral triangle. So equilateral triangle is when all three sides and three angles are congruent. So if you have all three angles, that means you have all sides that are congruent. So if this is 60, 60, that let's say you had one side that was 10. So that means all sides are congruent. So in an equilateral is when all three sides and all three angles are congruent. Okay. Oh, okay. So that we covered all the triangles. Now the next video will be a quiz. So if you need to review these lecture, go ahead and because we're going to do the quiz on the next video. Okay. Okay.